What's up, Purpose students? My name is Haley, and I am so excited to join you guys actually today for our first session of camp. It's going to be awesome as we journey through the story of Exodus. And I want to give you a little bit of a background before we jump into tonight. Is that we're going to be talking about the story of Moses. But Moses didn't just all of a sudden appear. We start to see that there was a lot of background necessary to get to when Moses was born and how important his life was. So we see that it was a time where the Israelites were in Egypt, and they were starting kind of to become this massive group in Egypt to the point where Pharaoh started to feel a little bit threatened by it. And so Pharaoh, as we can see, didn't believe in the power of the God the Israelites were serving. So we see that Pharaoh wanted to do anything that he could to exude, to show how powerful he was. Pharaoh actually wanted to prove that he was more powerful than God himself. Yet the Israelites are over here worshiping God. And so what he does is he throws them in slavery. You might have known the end of the Exodus story as we see that they escape slavery, but we are in the part of Exodus 1 where they are enslaved. And so one of the things that Pharaoh does to threaten the Israelite people is he says that I'm going to kill the Israelite boys that are born. So if you can imagine, any of those Israelite women who have little boys are wanting to protect those people. And so we see Moses' mom actually threw him in the Nile River in a basket to protect him, hoping that his life would go to safety so he wouldn't be killed by Pharaoh and all the power that he wanted to exude. It was the next verses you start to read. If you're in Exodus 1, you start to see, or a little bit into Exodus 2, you start to see that Pharaoh's daughter sees that basket with Moses in it. If you can imagine, if you're Moses, obviously God has a big plan for your life. If Pharaoh's daughter sees you and actually rescues you. So Pharaoh's daughter rescues Moses, and now Moses is in this household of Pharaoh, while his people, the Israelites, where he comes from, who he's known to be from, are now being enslaved and brutally treated. And so the question that we're going to be talking about, not just with the life of Moses, but the question that we're going to be talking with our lives, is the big question that you guys have probably heard a lot of times if you've built towards this camp, is the question of this: who am I? Who are you? How do you answer that question? Can you imagine Moses, who's living in this house with Pharaoh and all these people that are brutally hurting and sometimes killing and enslaving his people? He's confused about who he is, and we're going to jump into tonight and talk about what he actually does out of that confusion of who he is. Who are you? As we journey through scripture and you guys read through the book of Exodus, and some of you have read it before, and maybe some of you have never read the story of Moses ever, I want to challenge you to read this story afresh. As you read this morning, Exodus 1 and 2, if you could inch into chapter 2 as well, I want you to read it as if you've never read it before. And the question I want you guys to write down after this, that I want you to take time to actually, maybe it's writing a prayer to God or just writing it out, is answering the question of this: who am I? How would you answer that? Would you answer it based on something that you do? Would you answer it based on something that people say that you are? I don't know what the answer to that question is for you, but I think a great starting point as we push into who God is would be to start to say, who do we think that we are? Because who we think we are actually launches us into a lot of things that we're going to talk about this week. But I think it's really important this morning as we jump into camp and prepare our hearts to learn about who God is and who he says he is in the story of Moses, is to ask ourselves that important question, that foundational question of who am I? So take some time this morning, write it out. And for some of you, if you can't figure out that answer, I want to tell you that's okay. That's actually such a great launching point. And if you don't know the answer to that question and you want to ask other questions, write those questions down. I think that some of those questions are great launching points into deeper intimacy with God, because when we come to him with those questions, I believe those are moments where he wants to speak to us as we are open to receive from him. So take time, answer that question, and we'll see you tonight.